Welcome back, folks. We are pleased to be joined by Evan Delgado, who is Vice President of Programs at the Turrell Fund. Good to see you, Evan.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Let me let folks know that for several years now, we've been doing a series of programs, initiatives, and public awareness around child care that's been supported by the Turrell Fund and others. It has previously been known as Right from the Start NJ. This initiative now is called Reimagine Child Care. All about quality, affordable child care. What is Reimagine Child Care, Evan, and why does the Turrell Fund care so deeply about it?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking that question, Steve. Reimagine Child Care is a coalition of organizations, including the Turrell Fund, the Nicholson Foundation, Advocates of Children of New Jersey, and others who are committed to high quality, affordable, accessible child care. The reason we're so committed has become increasingly clear, I think, to many during the COVID crisis, but child care is essential and critical to our state, to our economy, and to families.
So let me ask you this. We just literally, right before we had you on, Evan, we were speaking to Governor Murphy about a whole range of issues. And one of them was, in fact, the commitment of $250 million, comes from the CARES Act on the federal side, going to childcare that the state is dedicating, this administration is dedicating in this budget to quality, affordable childcare. Some of that money going directly to child care centers, trying to keep them open. Is that the kind of thing we're talking about?
Absolutely. And I think that we're lucky here in New Jersey. So we've got great partners at other organizations in our sector. We've also got great government partners. Governor Murphy's commitment to this issue and the commitment of many of the commissioners and many different agencies is wonderful to see, and this is a great start. So I think that state investment is a show of support, it's a show of partnership, and it's the beginning of where we need to be going.
Evan, there's been extensive research that has been done and talking about the economic implications, the social emotional implications of not having quality, affordable childcare. What does the most recent data tell us?
So the most recent data, the most recent research shows us that childcare is, one, critical for early education for kids. If you're talking about kindergarten readiness, you're talking about socio-emotional learning to get along with others, it's critical there. But I think something that's top of mind for everyone nowadays is its impact on the workforce. It's the ability for parents to go back to work. It's the ability for them to go back and get further education. It's the ability for them to focus in on their work. And this is something really important for the emergency responders, for the heroes during the COVID crisis, for them to focus on their work and know that their kids are safe elsewhere. So I think one of the biggest impacts that we see in terms of workforce on the economy is parents having to give up opportunities, having to step back, having to leave their jobs, not being able to balance everything, not being able to focus in when they're in the home and doing incredibly important things. I think that's right in that sweet spot where you can really see that impact.
Fair to say, Evan, that this child care conundrum, this serious situation, disproportionately affects people who are Black and brown, African Americans, people who are Hispanic, and people who are in a certain socioeconomic category. Absolutely.
No, I think you're nailing something very critical to this issue, and this is something we've seen across many different sectors. We're seeing it all across the economy, but I think when you really look at how our society is structured, you see different communities, Black and brown communities, multiracial communities specifically, many of them are underinvested in chronically over many decades.
Is it part of, let me ask you this, sorry for interrupting, we're doing a series also called Confronting Racism. Is it, in your view, part of a larger institutional structural system of racism?
100%. And you got to realize you're talking to a sociologist who's the son of a professor of sociology. So I'm right there with you.
Put it in perspective for us then.
Yep, absolutely. So I see the child care crisis in this capacity along the lines of racial disparities. You can see it in health. You can see it in the workforce. You can see it in child care. That disinvestment that I mentioned in many communities exposes itself in the childcare sector as well. There are rampant childcare deserts. There's less options. There's less.
Go back at childcare deserts real quick. Meaning what? No childcare?
Absolutely. So that basically means that these are areas where there is a lack of affordable, accessible, high-quality options. And these childcare deserts, if you map out the data, you're going to see that this disproportionately impacts families of color and communities of color.
Question, one minute left. I'm curious about this. What about folks watching right now who happen not to be Black or brown and they fall into they're white, middle class, upper middle class, they're like, I'm good. I'm worried about my kid, but my kid's taken care of. We got good child care. I'm so sorry others don't have it. Not my issue. Make it clear to them, Evan, that it is.
Absolutely. So I think beyond the point we were talking about, and a point I would make again and again and again, if I had people leave this conversation with a single phrase in mind, it would be childcare is essential, and it is essential to our economy as a whole. What happens in one community impacts the next one in terms of the reopening of the economy in order for parents to go back to work, in order for employers to get all their employees back, and for them to be focused and productive during the workday. This is something that spirals out and impacts every sector. And I think that's one of the big takeaways. I mean, we're dealing with an unprecedented crisis, but I hope that one thing people take away from this is that we're all in this together.
We are. And to that end, Evan Delgado, the Vice President of Programs at Turrell Fund, I assure you that we'll continue our effort, and those of us in public broadcasting, our brothers and sisters in public broadcasting, to continue to shed a light on the importance of quality, affordable, accessible childcare. This is not going away. It's worse during the pandemic, but the reality is it will be an important issue moving forward. Evan, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Steve.
You got it. I'm Steve Adubato. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you next time.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation. Funding has been provided by PNC, Grow Up Great, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, Johnson & Johnson, the Healthcare Foundation of New Jersey, the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, the Russell Berry Foundation, Suez North America, University Hospital, and by the Adler Aphasia Center. Promotional support provided by ROINJ and by Insider NJ.
Hi, I'm Governor Tom Kean. A dear friend of mine had aphasia, which is a language disorder that occurs from a brain injury or a stroke. It robs a person's ability to communicate, but it doesn't affect their intellect. Programs and services offered at the Adler Aphasia Center help to improve my friend's communication skills, as well as her self-confidence and quality of life. Most importantly, she was among people who understood her. If you or a loved one has been diagnosed with aphasia, there is hope.